My name is Lukas Vesper, and I am a successful engineer. For many years, I have been solving technical problems for power plants all over the country, which means that I travel a lot. Despite my busy schedule, I am very happy with my life because I have a loving wife, Isolde, and an intelligent daughter, Isolde, who is studying medicine at university. Isolde was a talented architect, but after Isolde was born, she gave up her career to devote herself to her family. I often felt guilty for her dedication because it meant sacrificing her dreams. However, whenever I apologize to her, she always smiles and tells me that taking care of her family and watching Isolde grow up is her greatest happiness. Isolde is our pride and joy. From an early age, she has shown exceptional intelligence and independence. When she told us she wanted to study medicine, Isolde and I were very proud of her. Despite the rigors of medical school, Isolde has never complained, and she faces each day with a positive attitude. As the head of the family, I have always worked hard to provide the best life for my family. I firmly believe that as long as we love and support each other, there is nothing we can't overcome. Whenever I come back from a business trip, I see Isolde's warm smile and Isolde's excited hugs, and all the fatigue is swept away. Our life is dull, but full of love and happiness. Every weekend we go on trips together or spend cozy time at home. Isolde prepares delicious dinners for us and Isolde shares her funny stories from school. In these moments, I often feel like the luckiest man in the world. However, life wasn't always easy. Isolde sometimes felt sad about giving up her career, and Isolde was anxious about the pressures of medical school. As a husband and father, I did my best to comfort and encourage them. I told Isolde that what she was doing for her family was more meaningful than any professional achievement. I told Isolde that her mother and I would always be there for her, no matter what difficulties she faced. As time passes, our family is getting closer and getting to know each other better. We have spent countless unforgettable moments together and created many wonderful memories. Whenever I think back to these precious moments, I feel immensely happy and satisfied. To outsiders, we are a perfect family. We have a successful husband, a beautiful wife, and a smart daughter. However, only we know that this seemingly perfect happiness is based on each other's sincere love and selfless dedication. I always tell myself to cherish the moment and the people around me. Because life is so fragile and unpredictable, we never know what will happen tomorrow. But I firmly believe that as long as we are united as a family, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. This is me, Lukas Vesper, a man who fights for his family, a husband and father who loves his wife and daughter. I am very satisfied and proud to be a part of a family full of love and happiness. I know that this happiness is not easy to come by, and it needs our joint efforts to maintain it. And I will do my best to protect this wonderful family forever. It was a cold winter night when I returned home tired from a 2-day business trip. The work was very difficult, and the team and I had been working hard on a technical problem in a power plant. Nevertheless, when I opened the door of my home and saw the warm light and familiar furnishings, all the fatigue seemed to disappear. "Honey, you're home." Isolde came out from the kitchen and gave me a big hug. She had a light scent that made me feel so relieved. "Daddy, welcome home." Isolde came running down the stairs and jumped into my arms just like she did when she was a little girl. Even though she was already a college student, she would always be my little princess in my eyes. We sat down at the table and enjoyed a delicious dinner prepared by Isolde, Isolde excitedly sharing her school stories and Isolde asking me about my business trip. Everything was beautiful and harmonious, just as I had always wanted it to be. After dinner, I went to my bedroom with Isolde to get some rest. However, when I went into the bathroom to wash up, I noticed something unusual. On the sink, I found a black hair. It wasn't anything noteworthy, but the problem was that Isolde and I had light-colored hair, and this hair was black. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe Isolde dropped it here. After all, her hair is black. Or maybe the cleaning lady we hired left it there by accident. However, deep down, a sense of foreboding began to grow. I picked up the hair and examined it carefully. It was about 5 or 6 centimeters long, and the hair looked healthy. It didn't look like fallen hair, but more like it had been cut or shaved. My heart began to beat wildly, and all sorts of horrible scenarios came to mind. No, It's not possible. Isolde wouldn't cheat on me. I said to myself, we've always had a good relationship. Besides, she loved me and our family so much. It had to be a misunderstanding, a ridiculous coincidence. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. I decided not to think about it as a minor incident. I wiped the sink clean and threw the hair in the trash. However, the uneasy feeling lingered, like a shadow over me. Over the next few days, I tried to keep myself busy and not think about the hair. I threw myself into my work, putting in extra hours to deal with the technical problems. I went shopping with Isolde and helped Aloan revise her research paper. I told myself that everything was normal, that I was just being paranoid. However, in the dead of night, the doubts and uneasiness would return. I began to recall details, things I hadn't cared about before. Had Isolde been going out a lot lately when I wasn't home? Had she been too indifferent to my business trips? And the occasional mysterious phone call she receives, which she avoids answering. I kept telling myself that it was all just a coincidence, that I was just being paranoid, that Isolde loved me and that our family was happy. However, that black hair was like a thorn in my heart, and I couldn't let it go. The joy of returning from a business trip was gradually replaced by an indescribable gloom. I became sensitive and suspicious, and began to doubt everything I had believed in. I didn't know what it meant or what I should do. All I knew was that there was a shadow that was silently hanging over me and over our family. I, on the other hand, seemed to be standing on the edge of a dangerous cliff, ready to fall into the abyss. Ever since I found the black hair that day, I have never been able to find peace in my heart. Even though I kept telling myself that it was just a coincidence, a misunderstanding, the suspicion and uneasiness took root in my heart like a seed. I became very sensitive and vigilant. Every morning, I scrutinized the sink to see if the hair was still there. I began to watch Isolde's every move, her every expression, her every word, arousing my suspicion. In order to keep a better eye on Isolde, I've begun to take on more frequent business trips. In the past, I had always tried to avoid leaving home for long periods of time, but now I was volunteering to go around the country to deal with technical problems. Ostensibly, I was doing it for work and for the family's financial stability, but in reality, I was taking advantage of the opportunity to observe the situation at home from a distance. Every time I traveled, I called Isolde on the phone, pretending to be casual, to ask her how she was doing. I listened carefully to her tone of voice, analyzed her words, and tried to find any hint of suspicion. Sometimes I even pretended to come home early from a business trip just to see if Isolde would behave differently. But to my dismay, no matter how much I monitored and analyzed, I couldn't find any evidence of Isolde's cheating behavior. Her life seemed to be the same as always, full of love and devotion to her family. She prepared breakfast every day and sent Aloan to school. She cleaned the house and did the chores. She brought me hot snacks when I worked late. This makes me feel even more confused and conflicted. On the one hand, I was deeply in love with Isolde, and in all the years we had been together, she had never given me any reason to doubt her. On the other hand, the black hair was like a spell that kept me from getting rid of my inner doubts. My behavior began to become odd and erratic. I would wake up in the middle of the night and quietly check Isolde's breathing to see if she was really with me. I would secretly open the bathroom door while she was in the shower, afraid that I would see something I shouldn't. I even started stalking her, following her when she went out to see if she was going to meet someone. It was torture. I felt myself becoming more and more paranoid and less like myself. I kept questioning myself. Am I crazy? Was I being carried away by a hair? Was I unnecessarily breaking the trust between Isolde and me? But every time I tried to convince myself to let go of these doubts, scenarios of how Isolde might have cheated on me would come to mind. I imagined her in the arms of another man. I imagined her lying to me. I imagined that our marriage might be a sham. These fantasies were like poisonous snakes, gnawing at my heart and causing me pain. I began to become more and more silent, more and more distant. I stopped sharing my thoughts with Isolde and discussing my work with her. I even began to avoid intimate contact with her because every touch reminded me of that damn hair. Aloan seems to have sensed something strange about me. Daddy, have you been unhappy about something lately? She asked me with concern. You seem to be moping around all the time. and you're not as close to mom as you used to be." I looked at my daughter, and a wave of sadness washed over me. I wished I could tell her the truth, tell her about my inner torment and struggle. But I couldn't. I couldn't put her through that, couldn't make her doubt her mother's love. "It's okay, baby." I forced a smile. "Daddy's just a little tired from work lately." But I knew that things had changed. That once happy family had been eroded by my doubts and insecurities. I had become more and more like a stranger, a spy lurking in the house, watching my wife, doubting my marriage. I don't know where this will take me. I don't know if I have the courage to face the truth, no matter how brutal it may be. All I know is that I have been plunged into a dark vortex, a prison of doubt and suspicion. I, on the other hand, am struggling in this cage, desperately searching for an exit that will allow me to find myself again, to find the happy life we once had. My life had become a complete nightmare. I was suffocated by the constant suspicion and anxiety. I became more and more like a paranoid maniac, spying on Isolde every day, trying to find evidence of her infidelity. However, just when I was about to give up, an unexpected discovery changed everything. That day, I finished my business trip early and decided to surprise Isolde. I came home quietly, intending to sneak into the bedroom and give her a tender hug. But when I walked into the bedroom, I saw a scene I'll never forget. Isolde was cleaning out the closet, and in her hand was a man's shirt. The shirt was obviously not mine, as I never wear fancy patterns like that. "What is it?" My voice shook with anger and shock. Isolde was startled and turned to look at me. Her face turned pale instantly, and the shirt in her hand fell to the floor. "Lukas, why did you come back early?" I asked again. "What is this?" I asked angrily, stepping forward and picking up the shirt. Isolde's lips quivered. Her eyes flickered in panic. That, stop lying to me," I yelled. "Whose shirt is this? Are you having an affair?" Isolde suddenly burst into tears. She dropped to the floor, held her head, and said incoherently, "I'm sorry."
I'm sorry.
At that moment, I felt like the sky was spinning. My heart felt like it had been stabbed. Blood was pouring out, and it hurt like hell. I grabbed Isolde and forced her to look me in the eye. "Tell me the truth. What's going on here?" Isolde cried even more. She said brokenly, I didn't mean to. I really love you. But, but, my mind was in turmoil. I felt anger, despair, overwhelming humiliation and sadness. I pushed Isolde away and stormed out of the bedroom. I needed to be alone, to make sense of it all. For the next few days, I lived like a zombie. I took a vacation and locked myself in my study all day. I didn't eat or drink, ignored Isolde's explanations and pleas. I didn't even know how to face Isolde, my lovely daughter. I started frantically investigating Isolde's past, trying to find out if she was cheating on me. I hacked into her email, checked her phone records, and even hired a private detective to follow her. However, something even more devastating happened. I found out that Isolde was not my biological daughter. In the course of my investigation of Isolde, I accidentally discovered a DNA test report. The report clearly showed that Isolde's biological father was not me, but a man named Caspian. The news came as a bolt from the blue and completely shattered me. I felt that my whole world had collapsed and that everything had been an illusion, a lie. I had not only lost the love of my wife, but also the blood of my daughter. My anger at Isolde was at its peak. I stormed into the bedroom, grabbed her by the collar, and screamed hysterically, "Isolde is not my daughter? How could you have someone else's child behind my back? You slut! You've ruined everything for me." Isolde sobbed uncontrollably. She fell to her knees and kept apologizing.
I'm sorry. Lukas, I'm sorry.
"I didn't mean to deceive you. It was a mistake made many years ago. I really love you and I love our family." But I couldn't listen to any more explanations. I felt incredibly betrayed and humiliated. I kicked Isolde away and stormed out of the house without looking back. I needed to get away from it all, from this place that was suffocating me. I drove to a lake on the outskirts of town. I sat by the lake all night, letting my tears dry up, letting my heart ache. I kept asking myself, why? Why did Isolde do this to me? Why did my life turn out like this? At dawn, as the sun rose slowly over the horizon, I made a decision. I couldn't leave it at that. I couldn't let Isolde and her lover ruin everything for me. I was going to make them pay, and I was going to let the whole world know how ugly they were. I wiped away my tears, started the car, and drove to the city. I knew that a battle for revenge was about to begin. I would tear down the lies with my own hands and reveal the dirty secrets with my own hands. At this moment, I was no longer the gentle husband, no longer the loving and forgiving father. I became an avenger, a warrior who vowed to seek justice. Isolde, Caspian, you'll see. I, Lukas Vesper, will make you regret this, and I will make you pay in blood. No one can destroy my dignity, destroy my life. Even if my heart is in pieces, even if I have to face the abyss, I will stand up, I will fight back. This is my oath, my declaration. From now on, I will no longer be a victim to be bullied and humiliated. I will be the master of my own destiny, and I will punish those who betrayed me with my own hands. The fire of vengeance has been lit. No matter how many difficulties and obstacles lie ahead, I will continue with determination until I have accomplished my mission, until I have recovered everything that belongs to me. Isolde, Caspian, you will see, Lukas Vesper, has been reborn. A new, no longer naive, no longer weak Lukas Vesper has been born. I've returned to my former home with a new attitude. I am no longer the fool who blindly believed in love and was defenseless. My heart has been darkened by betrayal and deceit, and my soul has been set ablaze by the flame of revenge. I calmly walked into the bedroom and looked at Isolde's crying face. There was a time when I would have ached for every tear she shed, but now I felt nothing but disgust and anger. No more theater, I said coldly. I already know everything. About you, about Caspian, about Isolde. Isolde looked up, her eyes wide with terror. Lukas, I can explain. Explain what? I sneered. Explain how you slept with another man behind my back? How you lied to me for years about someone else's child being mine? Isolde's face was pale. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to say something, but finally she hung her head. I looked at her and felt a surge of anger burning in my chest. This woman once was my whole world. Once was the person I was willing to give everything to protect. But now, in my eyes, she is nothing but betrayal and filth. I'm going to make you pay, I said, my tone cold as iron. I'm going to make you taste betrayal, and I'm going to make you regret it. Isolde's head snapped up, fear shining in her eyes. Lukas, please, don't do this. We can still start over. I laughed, a laugh full of sarcasm and disdain. Starting over? After all you've done? You're ridiculously naive. I turned away, leaving Isolde alone in the bedroom, crying. I had more important things to do. I was going to start my revenge program, and I was going to make Isolde and Caspian look bad in front of the world. For the next few days, I was completely absorbed in the planning of my revenge. I took a long vacation, locked myself up in my study, and worked out all sorts of plans. I wanted their scandal to be publicized, and I wanted them to feel the pain of losing everything. I started by hiring a private investigator to do a thorough background check on Caspian. I wanted to know every secret, every weakness. At the same time, I was also secretly collecting evidence of Isolde's infidelity. I saved all the photos and text messages of Isolde's affair. I'm also in touch with a lawyer about the divorce and the division of property. I'm going to leave Isolde with nothing. I'm going to make her lose all her dignity and decency. During this period, Isolde tried to communicate with me in an attempt to save our marriage. But each time, I coldly rejected her. I told her that nothing was possible between us, that our marriage was dead. Isolde came to see me, too. When she learned the truth, she was shocked and saddened. She cried and asked me why her mother had done this, why our family had become like this. I comforted her, told her it wasn't her fault, and that I would always be her father, blood or no blood. But deep down, I couldn't face Isolde either, and every time I saw her, I was reminded of the fact that she wasn't mine. This caused me a great deal of pain and shame. I began to distance myself from her and avoided contact with her. I knew it wasn't her fault, but I couldn't control my emotions. In the course of my investigation, I discovered a shocking fact. It turned out that Caspian already had a family of his own. He had a beautiful wife and a lovely daughter. This certainly makes his betrayal all the more unforgivable. I began to plan my first move. I sent a letter anonymously to Caspian's wife, describing in detail his affair with Isolde and enclosing some photographs as evidence. I knew it would be a devastating blow. As luck would have it, a few days later, I heard that Caspian and his wife had had a big fight and that his family was in crisis. The news gave me a malicious thrill. But this was only the beginning. I had more plans to execute. Next, I started spreading rumors about Isolde's cheating at work and among my friends. I sent the photos and text messages anonymously to everyone so they could see Isolde's true colors. At the same time, I hired people to post on the internet to expose Isolde and Caspian's scandalous behavior. Little by little, the whole city was talking. Isolde's reputation was ruined, and she could no longer hold her head up to the world, as people looked at her in a strange way and spoke of her infidelity and debauchery. I watched all this with cold eyes, and the hatred and anger in my heart did not subside. I want to make them lose their names. I want to make their lives worse than death. This is the price for betraying me. In the course of this revenge, I changed. I've become ruthless. I've become heartless. I was no longer the fool who believed in love and loyalty. I had become a vengeful demon. But I don't regret it, because I knew that it was my only choice. I had to punish those who hurt me. I had to take back what was mine, even if my soul is full of holes, even if I have to bear the blame and sins. Isolde, Caspian, you'll see. I, Lukas Vesper, will make you pay in blood. That is my promise to you. The road to revenge is still long, but I'm ready.
I'm fearless.
I will destroy you step by step, just as you destroyed my life. This is my destiny, my mission, until I fulfill it, until my hatred burns out. My plan for revenge was going well. Isolde and Caspian's scandal had spread through the city. Their reputations had been completely ruined. But that's not enough. I'm going to make them suffer even more. I'm going to make them look bad in public. I started working on my final blow. I contacted a TV station in the city and told them I had a bombshell story to share. I provided all the evidence and materials, including the photos and text messages. The station was so interested that they decided to arrange a special program to cover the story. The day before the program was to be broadcast, I took Isolde away from her in the name of work, and I told her I was going on a business trip and might not be back for a few days. I told her that I had to go out of town on a business trip and might not be back for a few days, and Isolde seemed to have gotten used to my coldness. She didn't ask any questions, but just nodded silently. I pretended to leave the city, but in reality I was watching Isolde, and it wasn't long before I saw Caspian's car parked in front of my house. I knew they must have arranged to meet while I was away. I held back my anger and waited patiently. After about an hour, Isolde and Caspian appeared at the door together. They embraced, kissed, and made love. I photographed the scene, which would be my last ace in the hole. The next day, when the special aired, the whole city was shocked. On TV, the hosts described Isolde and Caspian's affair in vivid colors. The photos and text messages were exposed. Isolde's betrayal, Caspian's infidelity, were all laid bare for the public to see. I watched Isolde's face turn white in front of the camera, saw the despair and shame in her eyes. I listened to the hosts' condemnation and mockery of her, and to the uproar and rage of the audience. In this moment, I felt a twisted pleasure. This is the price for betraying me. This is what you deserve. After the program was aired, the whole city was talking about it. Isolde and Caspian became a street rat and were completely humiliated in front of the public. Isolde was fired from her company, and Caspian's business was hit hard. Their friends and family cut them off, and they become the laughing stock and shame of the city. I watched with cold eyes as the fire of vengeance in my heart was finally calmed a little. I made Isolde feel my pain. I made her realize what it was like to be spurned by the world. This is the price she paid for betraying me. But I know that's not the end of it. I want them to be completely ruined. I want them to never be able to turn back. So I started another round of revenge. I hired people to spread more rumors on the internet, to expose Isolde and Caspian to more scandals. I exposed their private lives to the public so that everyone would know how dirty and sleazy they were. At the same time, I started to take legal action against them. I'm going to cut them off completely through legal channels. In the days that followed, Isolde and Caspian's lives went to hell. They were plagued by rumors, debts, and lawsuits. Traumatized both physically and mentally, they lived in despair and pain every day. I, on the other hand, watched it all with a coldness. I was no longer the naive, deceivable Lukas. I had become a vengeful demon, a cold-blooded executioner. I want to destroy those who hurt me with my own hands. I want to make them suffer. At times, I feel a twinge of exhaustion and emptiness. The road to revenge is so long and so painful. I don't know how much longer I can hold out. I don't know how much more my soul can take. But every time I think of Isolde's betrayal, of Caspian's infidelity, I rekindle my resolve for revenge. It's a road of no return, a war that must be fought. I have lost everything. I have nothing to fear. I want the world to witness my pain, and I want everyone to know what happens when you betray Lukas Vesper. Isolde, Caspian, do you think this is the end? No, this is just the beginning. I will make your lives a living hell. I will make your lives a living hell. Until I destroy you with my own hands, until my vengeance burns out. This is my destiny, my mission. I, Lukas Vesper, will always remember this lesson in blood and tears. From now on, I will no longer believe in love. I will no longer believe in loyalty. I will be the embodiment of vengeance, a cold judge. World, you better remember my name. For I, Lukas Vesper, am about to unleash a storm like no other. A storm of vengeance, a storm of destruction. And you, Isolde, Caspian, will be the first victims of this storm. This is what you deserve. This is the price for betraying me. In my vengeance, I devoted almost all my energy and time. I plotted against Isolde and Caspian with an almost paranoid attitude. My life has been completely consumed by hatred and pain. What I didn't realize was that my actions also had a devastating effect on my family. In my preoccupation with revenge, I ignored Alone's feelings. The daughter I'd always thought of as my own was suffering terribly. One evening, when I came home from a day of work, I found Alone sitting in the living room waiting for me. Her eyes were red and swollen, and her face was tear-stained. "Dad, we need to talk." Her voice was hoarse, with a hint of desperation. I sat down next to her and tried to put my arm around her shoulders, but she pushed my hand away. "Dad, do you realize what you've been doing all this time? Do you know what you've become?" Her eyes were filled with disappointment and sadness. I tried to explain, tried to tell her that everything I did was for our family. But Alone shook her head. "No, Dad, you're wrong. What you're doing now is not for our family. It's destroying our family." Her words were like a knife in my heart. "You think I don't know? You think I haven't seen you change? You've become cold. You've become cruel. You're not the father I knew." I was speechless. I suddenly realized that in the process of taking revenge, I had lost myself and my responsibility as a father. "Dad, I know that I am not your real daughter, and I know that this fact has brought you a great shock. But in my heart, you will always be my father. Blood doesn't define a family. Love does." Tears came to Alone's eyes again. I felt my heart cut out. "I don't want to lose you, Dad. I've already lost Mom. I can't lose you. Please, let go of the hate and let's start over, okay?" I looked at my daughter and saw the pleading and love in her eyes. In that moment, my heart melted. I realized that I had let revenge blind me to the most important thing of all, my family. I hugged Alone tightly and tears slipped from my eyes. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. Daddy was wrong. Daddy will never do it again. No matter what happens, you'll always be my daughter and I'll always love you." We held each other, father and daughter, and we cried. It was the first real heart-to-heart we'd had during the storm. But despite my decision to let go of my vengeance, despite my decision to start over, my marriage to Isolde was irreparable. Betrayal and hurt had driven an unbridgeable wedge between us. In the following days, Isolde and I began the long process of divorce. Our home was in tatters. We had to deal with the division of property and the custody of Alone. Every negotiation, every argument, was an affront to the vows we had made. Isolde suffered through the process. Even after learning the truth, she still sees me and Isolde as her parents. She had to put up with the breakup of her parents and the judgment of the world. I could see that her heart was also filled with struggle and pain. Eventually, we finalized our divorce. Isolde and I were strangers. The home we once had no longer existed. We had to pick up the pieces of our lives from the rubble. In the days following the divorce, I moved out of my old house and started a whole new life. I did everything I could to make it up to Isolde, to be a good father. I knew that we both needed time to heal, and we both needed to learn how to love and trust again. But I know that we will eventually get out of the darkness. We will eventually see the sunshine. Because we still have each other. Because we still have the fire of love in our hearts. This revenge has cost me so much. It cost me my wife and my family. But it also taught me to forgive and let go. It made me realize that the most valuable thing in life is not revenge and resentment, but love and hope. The divorce was slowly clearing up, and life was starting to get back on track. Isolde and I moved into a new apartment and started a new life. Although we were both still adjusting to the broken home, we knew that we had each other. I went back to work, trying to find the rhythm of life in the midst of the hustle and bustle, while Isolde continued her studies, her strength and bravery comforting me. I know that this girl has a bright future ahead of her. On a business trip, I met Amanda, Caspian's ex-wife. Our situations were so similar. We'd both been betrayed by our partners, and we'd both experienced marital breakdown. But more importantly, we both had a child who needed our protection. Amanda's daughter, Maria, is about Isolde's age. They were classmates at school and soon became good friends. Watching them play together and see the smiles on their faces, Amanda and I felt a great sense of relief. Gradually, Amanda and I began to get close. We often drank coffee together, chatted, and shared our experiences and feelings. I realized that in Amanda, I found a kind of long-lost soul match. We have both been hurt, but we both chose to face life bravely. One day, on the way home from dropping Amanda off, she asked me out of the blue, "Lukas, do you believe there's true love in the world? After everything?" I was silent for a moment, then slowly said, "I don't know, Amanda. I used to think I had found true love, but that's what hurt me the most. But I guess I'm still willing to believe and try. Because what's the point of living if you can't even believe in love anymore?" Amanda gazed at me, and there was a gentle light in her eyes. "That's what I think, Lukas. Maybe we should all give each other a chance, give love a chance." At that moment, I felt something grow in my heart. It was a long-lost stirring, a rekindled hope. Over the next few days, Amanda and I started dating. We watched movies together, went for walks together, and took the kids on trips together. Every time we held hands, every time we hugged, I felt that the beauty of life was returning. Isolde and Maria are also happy about our relationship. They seem to have found a long-lost sisterhood in each other. Looking at their happy faces, I know that the family is slowly healing and rebuilding. Of course, the road to rebuilding wasn't easy. Both Amanda and I carry the pain of the past and need time to learn to trust and love again. We also had to deal with our children's insecurities and confusion and learn how to give them a sense of security and belonging in this new family structure. But we are trying. We are trying for this family, for each other. We know that love needs courage, need to pay, need to tolerate and understand. We also know that only hand in hand, only support each other, we can walk through those difficult moments to usher in a new tomorrow. Gradually, I felt that my life was filled with color again. Isolde's laughter, Amanda's warmth, and Maria's liveliness lit up my world. I began to let go of the past and embrace the present. I began to understand that life is not always easy, but it is those setbacks and pains that shape our souls, make us stronger, and cherish the happiness in front of us. Isolde, I used to give my all for you, and I used to be in pain for you. But now, I just want to say goodbye to you. Goodbye to my past. Goodbye to my pain. I will no longer be bound by hatred and resentment. I will be brave to the future, to a new life. Isolde, my dear daughter, you are the most beautiful miracle of my life. I know that our relationship has suffered because of that secret, but believe me, no matter what happens, you will always be my pride and my treasure. I will spend my life making amends to give you a complete and loving home. Amanda, meeting you is the biggest surprise in my life. Your presence makes me believe in love and life again. I know we both carry scars, but I believe we can heal each other and create a better tomorrow together. Thank you for giving me a second chance to love. Time flies, and 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye. In these 2 years, my life has changed dramatically. My relationship with Amanda has become stronger and stronger. We have gone through the adjustment period together, and we have built up a deep bond and trust. We decided to enter into marriage and start a brand new journey in life. Aloan and Maria were the most beautiful bridesmaids at our wedding. Looking at their happy smiles, I was overwhelmed and touched. I know that this new family will bring them more love and warmth. As Aloan's father, I have always regarded her as my most precious daughter, despite the fact that she is not related to me by blood. In the past 2 years, our relationship has gone from estrangement to reconstruction. I tried to make up for the lack of a father by giving her more love and support. Gradually, Aloan opened up to me again, and we often had long conversations, sharing our thoughts and feelings. I encouraged Aloan to follow her dreams and supported her every decision. When she told me that she wanted to become a pediatrician and use her love to warm up more children, I felt so proud. I know that this strong and understanding girl will eventually realize her dream and become a good doctor. Isolde and Caspian, after being publicly humiliated and legally sanctioned, began their disastrous lives. Isolde lost her job and her reputation, and her family cut her off. She moved out of the city and lived a life of poverty in a remote town. Rumor has it that she began drinking heavily and spending her days in tears, paying a terrible price for her mistakes. Caspian lost his business and his fortune as a result of the scandal. His wife and daughter left him, and he was left with nothing. He is said to have become addicted to drugs, spending his time in casinos and underground establishments, leading a life of debauchery and depravity. When I heard the news, there was no more hatred in my heart. I only felt a deep sadness for their degradation, for their loss. I suddenly realized that revenge does not bring true happiness, it only perpetuates hatred and pain. True liberation comes from forgiveness and letting go. I began to learn to let go of the past and to forgive. I forgave Isolde for her betrayal, Caspian for his infidelity. I also forgave myself for my anger and despair. I realized that there are no eternal wounds in life, and no wounds that cannot be healed. As long as we have hope, as long as we have the courage to move forward, one day, we will come out of the haze, see the light again. With Amanda's encouragement, I began to try writing. I poured my experiences and feelings into my words. Gradually, I realized that writing gave me a new kind of power, a kind of catharsis and healing power. I began to publish my own articles and share my stories online. To my surprise, many readers wrote to me, telling me that my words gave them courage and inspiration and gave them renewed hope in life. I know that this is my new meaning in life. I want to use my experience, my story, to help more people who have similar experiences with me. I want to tell them that no matter how hard life is, no matter how hard we are hit, we can't give up. We have to be strong and live on. Because as long as we live, there is hope. As long as there is love, there is power. Dear Isolde, dear Caspian, if you can hear me, I want to say to you that I forgive you. I hope you can forgive yourselves too and start a new life. The past is gone, and there's still a long way to go. I hope that one day, you will be able to come out of the shadows and find the meaning of life again. Dear Aloan, my proud daughter, you are the greatest gift in my life. I am so grateful for your kindness, your strength, and your wisdom. I know that you will grow up to be a wonderful person, full of love and dreams. Daddy will always love you and support you. Dear Amanda, the second spring of my life, meeting you is my greatest fortune. Thank you for your love, your tolerance, and your company. With you by my side, I feel very solid and happy. Let's work together to meet every sunrise and sunset in the future and write the chapter of our life together. Dear Lukas, you went through the darkest baptism of your life, but you were not crushed by your suffering. With your courage and resilience, you have rekindled the light of life. You learned forgiveness in pain and hope in despair. You are no longer the same Lukas. You are a new, wiser, and more open-minded Lukas. Life is getting better. My marriage to Amanda is getting better. Aloan and Maria are thriving under our care, and their friendship is growing stronger and stronger. My heart is filled with gratitude and joy as I watch my family heal. But behind the happiness, there was another knot in my heart: Caspian's father, Jeppy. It was Caspian's father, Jeppy, an old man I hadn't seen since the scandal. I knew that, as a father, he must have suffered a great deal of pain and suffering. One day, I summoned up my courage and went to the old Caspian house. I rang the doorbell, feeling uneasy. After a long time, old Jeppy slowly opened the door. He looked much older, and his eyes were full of fatigue and sadness. "Lukas, I didn't think it would be you." His voice was low and husky. "Mr. Jeppy, I came to talk to you," I said sincerely. The old man seemed to hesitate for a moment, but finally let me in. We sat in the living room, speechless for a while. There was a heavy atmosphere in the air. After a long time, I broke the silence. "Mr. Jeppy, I know you must have suffered a lot over the years. As a father, I can imagine how you must feel to see your son make such a big mistake." Jeppy sighed and smiled bitterly. "Yes, my son. He has disappointed me to the core. But as a father, I can't really hate him. I only hate myself for not being able to teach him well enough and letting him go down such a wrong path." I nodded, empathizing. "I know how you feel." I, too, was angry and desperate over Isolde's betrayal. But then I realized that hate only makes you suffer more. Only by letting go, only by forgiving, can we truly be free. Jeppy gazed at me with a hint of emotion in her eyes. "You're right, Lukas. You are right, Lukas. We are all victims of this mistake. Instead of hating each other, we should understand each other and support each other." I reached out and took the old man's hand. "Mr. Jeppy, I have a request. I know that Aloan and Maria, they are innocent. They don't deserve the consequences of their parents' mistakes. You are their only remaining grandfather. I hope you will take care of them and give them a complete family." Tears welled up in Jeppy's eyes. He gripped my hand back tightly and choked. "Thank you, Lukas, for your tolerance and kindness. I promise you, from now on, I will do everything in my power to love and care for them, to make up for these years of absence. They are my granddaughters, too." We looked at each other and smiled, and there was an unspoken understanding and support for each other. I knew that true reconciliation and healing was finally coming to this family. When I got back from Caspian's house, I told Amanda and the girls the good news. They were very happy and were looking forward to the reunion with Jeppy. We arranged to go to Jeppy's house one weekend. That day, when Jeppy saw Aloan and Maria, he couldn't control his feelings any longer. He hugged the girls tightly and burst into tears. The girls hugged him back and called out, "Grandpa." The scene moved everyone in the audience to tears. From then on, Jeppy was a frequent visitor to our house and took the girls out. Gradually, he became a kind and cheerful grandfather instead of a sad and desperate old man. The girls became more active and cheerful under his care. Amanda and I were so happy to see this. Time flies, and another year has come and gone. On this day, it was Aloan's graduation ceremony. When I saw her confidently walking up to the stage to receive her certificate in her bachelor's degree, my heart was filled with pride and emotion. 18 years, from the moment she was born to the moment she grew up to be an outstanding medical student, we have walked through so many storms together. Although we are not related by blood, we have the deepest bond in the world. Off stage, Amanda was holding my hand tightly with relief in her eyes. Maria was cheering for her best friend, and Jeppy was sitting in her wheelchair with a happy smile on her face. At that moment, I suddenly realized that this was the best moment of my life. This family, which had been reorganized from trauma and injuries, and which had gone through so much pain and suffering, was finally experiencing true happiness and joy. Each of us has our own hurts and regrets. But as long as we learn to forgive, learn to accept, and learn to dissolve hatred with love, we can create miracles and find the meaning of life. Dear Aloan, dear Maria, you are the most precious gifts in my life. No matter how long the road ahead is, Daddy will always be there for you and will always be proud of you. Dear Amanda, you are the greatest blessing in my life. Let's work together to protect this hard-earned home and create more beautiful memories together. Dear Jeppy, thank you for your tolerance and acceptance. You are not only a grandfather to the girls, but an integral part of our family. This family is more complete and warmer with you in it. Dear Lucas, life is a constant process of reconciling and being reconciled. We reconcile with the past, we reconcile with those who hurt us, and we reconcile with our inner selves. When we truly open our hearts and embrace life with love, we gain happiness and hope. The storm has finally passed. The sun has finally returned to the sky. Let us welcome every tomorrow in our lives with gratitude and anticipation. Because of love, anything is possible. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.